Ladies and gentlemen, pay attention. This is your boy, the coach from the WWE. I would like to welcome you to the very first wrestling podcast in the world to take you on a weekly deep dive into classic matches along with legends of the squared circle. Enjoy the discussion. Enjoy the back and forth. There's so much to get into. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the payoff.
Jeff, it's fight night. Cesaro, Sheamus. I'm looking forward to covering this one. Where did you pull this one from?
As I like to say, just, a couple meaty men slapping meat. Like that's really what this boils down to. This is just one that I kind of wanted to do something a little bit more recent, kind of mixing it up a little bit. And so this is probably one of the more recent matches that we've done lately. And so just kind of wanted to check it out. But also, I thought it was interesting, lately, at least in the news, or a month or two ago, you always hear about Sheamus was upset because he wanted more of a push. You always wonder, and we'll talk about it during the match, is Cesaro one of those guys that has just his entire career he has been under pushed and underutilized? And so even some of the write-ups at the time talked about that a little bit. And so I thought this was just kind of an interesting one. And this was before the Bar. This was before these guys had really, Sheamus had some belts and stuff like that, but really, I had forgotten that there was the Heyman era Cesaro as well too. So we'll talk about that a little bit. So more to talk about here than I realized, which is why I really wanted to cover this one.
And I'll get to it here in a second, but man, not that we chose it for this reason, but this is a really interesting card for a lot of reasons, which I'll get into here in a second. Yeah. So I say we jump right into the build.
Oh, it's time for the build.
So like I just said, the card for this one, Jeff, I mean, it's funny for a lot of reasons, okay? So let's take our first match. Our first match is Goldust and Stardust defeating the Usos to win the tag team champions. So Cody Rhodes and his brother Dustin defeat the Usos, which is, this is almost 10 years ago.
For the belts.
Wild. Yeah. So, you say, hey, let me tell you something. 9 years from now, Cody's going to be the second biggest star in the business.
Yep.
Goldust is still going to be wrestling.
Yeah.
And Jimmy and Jey Uso are going to be in the hottest program since the NWO maybe ever, and they're both going to be huge stars and arguably the greatest tag team of all time. I mean, it depends on your taste. I think it's completely subjective, but you have to put the Usos in the conversation as being one of the greatest tag teams of all time. So it's just incredible. Then the match we're going to cover here for the United States Championship. Then The Miz is going to defeat Dolph Ziggler. How many times do you think they've wrestled? This was for The Miz to win the IC title. Then, you're ready for this one. Seth Rollins defeats Roman Reigns by forfeit. I don't know what happened there, but just funny to, again, fast forward. Rollins Reigns, the fourth match on the show. Rusev is going to defeat Mark Henry by submission. Man, they just botched that whole Rusev thing. And
and I think AEW is too, I think. But
it's just, and I don't know what it is, man. Look, I know it's easy to say the cream always rises to the top. But you see a guy like that and you're like, man, he just feels like he should be a bigger star. Randy Orton's going to defeat Chris Jericho by pinfall. AJ Lee's going to defeat Paige and Nikki Bella by submission. And in your main event, John Cena is going to win by DQ against your champion, Brock Lesnar. So Lesnar's, this is the current run Lesnar's on. You say 2014, so this is part of the run that he's on right. There's just we could just talk about this card for the next hour, but really, really interesting stuff. And we'll probably go back to some stuff on here, but how do we get to Sheamus, Cesaro? And I'm curious. This is how does this fall in with their partnership and their feud? And yeah, I'm really excited for you to talk about this.
Yeah, so there's actually kind of a lot of moving pieces, at least with the individual wrestlers here, and they're part of it. It really kind of stalled out before we get to this match too. And so we'll start with like this Night of Champions didn't take place until September 21st of 2014, but we're going to actually go back to WrestleMania in April. This was the inaugural first annual, if you want to call it, Andre the Giant Battle or Memorial Battle Royal. This was the first time they'd done it. And Cesaro won that one, if you remember. And so one of those, and I feel like this is continuously the Battle Royal that you just never get pushed after winning it. It's, if it's not on the pre-show, it's just worthless. And so this was the first one though, but it was actually the night after this. It was actually Hogan who came out and endorsed Cesaro on this one and saying like, this is, this is him, this is his time. Like, this is the way to do it. And so it was that night actually too. And again, it's funny, some of the names we're going to drop here and just who was involved, but like Cesaro at the time was actually being managed by Zeb Coulter, if you remember. And so at that point, dropped Coulter for Paul Heyman. And so you're coming off of WrestleMania. You've got an endorsement from Hogan, and you are now a Paul Heyman guy. So that is where that is the position they had him in early 2014. So then you get Extreme Rules. You have Cesaro. It was eliminated by Rob Van Dam, again, back in the ring recently as well, too. It was a fun match. Actually, he got beat, but it's still fun. Good to see him out there. Good pop for the guy. It was a tournament for the Intercontinental Championship title. He actually, it was an elimination match where it's Extreme Rules as well, too. And so, but ended up losing all of that. And so one of their not first matches, but when these guys were kind of locking up prior to Night of Champions, it was actually Payback on June 1st. Cesaro and Sheamus had a match for the U.S. Championship, and he lost that one as well, too. He was also in the Money in the Bank ladder match. It was for the vacant World Heavyweight Championship at the time, which John Cena won. And then by July, so it was April and now we're in July. This is when he's no longer with Paul Heyman. And so we'll talk about it a little bit, but it's just, there's a lot of meat on that bone and why it happened and stuff like that. And then it was really quiet for him from July until this match that, he wasn't on any pay-per-views. It was, you almost feel like they just lost like creative direction with him, or they didn't know what to do with him, or maybe Vince was, had a, somebody pissed in his Cheerios that morning, who knows, but like Cesaro's just ended. So going back though with Sheamus on this one though, going back to January, it was Royal Rumble. He was actually a surprise entrance in that one. He was eliminated by Roman in the final 3 of that match. And so the following night on Raw, it was Sheamus, Daniel Bryan, John Cena qualifying for the Elimination Chamber match for the World Heavyweight Championship, but he was eliminated by Christian in that match. And so he did have a brief feud with Christian, led into WrestleMania, in which he did win that one. But again, these guys, like, they weren't, other than like they were in the Money in the Bank, they're just really, they weren't doing a whole lot. They weren't on the card much. I mean, they're second on this card. They're not even first coming into this one. So it's just kind of unusual where these guys were positioned. But, and again, you got to remember, this was before they were the tag team. This was before, kind of really these guys had, it was the best of 7 matches and things like that. There was all kinds of stuff that just, at this point, we weren't really sure what we were sitting on. And I think if you read in the dirt sheets, you kind of knew what Cesaro, or, what he was all about and what he was capable of and how much everybody loved him backstage and all that other stuff. But that just didn't translate up until this point, like on TV, and they weren't getting, we weren't seeing the results. And then we get this match.
Man, I don't know. So much of this during this era is just like lost on me in a blur. And maybe in 9 years, the stuff happening right now will be a blur too. I think that's one of the things that is we go back and look at, it's just funny because it's like so much more happens now. you're talking 5 hours of TV plus monthly shows, maybe even more than monthly. Mm-hmm. Then you throw in all the NXT stuff. And it's like, I just think about like the amount of content they produce and how much of it just you're never going to think about ever again. Like even, watching like SummerSlam recently, it's like, wow, this is SummerSlam, but it's like, how much of this are you going to remember happened in a few months? It's just so many things, so many moving pieces. So anyways, it's fun to go back and hear about this and watch it. So Season 7, Episode 1 of Night of Champions, Season 7, Episode 1, we're at the 26-minute mark. Are you ready?
Yeah, let's do this.
All right. It's time for the payoff.
Oh, it's time for the payoff.
And we thank you for joining us on social media all over the world tonight. If you'd like to discuss this particular
Cesaro looks like a giant.
US title.
He looks like he's towering over Sheamus, which is crazy.
Really does. Hey, as we jump into this, plug our shit real quick. Just get that out of the way. And by the way, so what's the new device called? The new Manscaped shaver. What's the actual name for it?
The handyman.
Okay, the handyman. So I got the handyman, and I text this to you. 10 out of 10. Like no bullshit. The handyman. It's like one of these like small electric razors. I mean, it's like half the size of an iPhone. It's not a big thing, but it's just enough for you to trim up your face. And it works a little better for like trimming up your face, trimming up your facial hair than the original lawnmower does. So it's great. I mean, this thing's phenomenal, and it's just,
I think I texted it to you, and then you ordered it right away. And
because I've wanted one of those, but usually they don't work well. I mean, I've tried them before.
Yeah. And I think that's even what I text you. I'm always worried because it just tears my face up, and so I hate it. But yeah, so but with enough of the Manscaped products, you can take care of yourself, not worry about that stuff. Of course, too, using our promo code PAYOFF at manscaped.com, you're getting 20% off and free shipping. So make sure to use that. Of course, too, the Caldera and Lab 20% off using the code PAYOFF as well too. There are some of just men's products. I know we talk about like soaps and night creams and all this other stuff. But as you get older, like you and I, like even not like younger guys, it doesn't really matter. Whatever you need, like these are where you're going to find these products to help you kind of look your best, all that kind of different stuff, like no shame in any of it. So manscaped.com, that's payoff, 20% off and free shipping. And of course, Caldera and Lab 20% off as well using the code payoff. So, all right. So I made a statement before when we were going through the card. I said the Usos are one of the best tag teams of all time. I mean, what do you think? I mean, it's hard for me to, it's like you can, it's very subjective. I mean, you can just be like, look, I'm a Rockers fan. I'm a Heart Foundation fan. I'm a Demolition fan, Legion of Doom, whoever it might be. It's very, very subjective, but it's like, man, like you look at the Usos and I mean, who cares how many titles they've won because, it's a prop and titles changed hands a lot, especially in the tag team division for a number of years. But man, you look at everything they've done, incredible tag matches with, so many different teams, what they're doing as singles and part of the bloodline. And man, it's hard to, I mean, anyone that says they're the best tag team of all time, I can't argue with that. That's your opinion. And you're well within your right to say that. Yeah, I think they have to be top three. Like, I think, on any day you could rotate them between them. Looking at like current gen, you got them, the New Day, like, some of these groups that just, out of control. And then, of course, and then you start adding in like, okay, let's talk about the Rockers. Let's talk about Legion of Doom. Let's talk about some of these tags, even like DX, like, Billy Gunn and Road Dogg. Like, it's hard not to, look at all of them and the kind of impact that they've made over the years. And so, yeah, absolutely. Like they have to be. And I think what that poll was a few years ago, WWE put that poll out and New Day was number one or something like that. And people lost their minds over it. But again, like you said, you have to be subjective with it too, because this is like the Jordan LeBron argument of all too, like who's the greatest of all time and stuff like that. And so, yeah, different eras, how different things play out, you have to take that into account. Like wrestling has just changed over the years. Even like the run that these two guys had, like, was really good as a tag team, like just fantastic. And so, especially right now, like look at the story that's being told. Like if you had to say today, like who's the best tag team? Like, yeah, it's definitely the Usos. Like they're at the top of the card. They're doing all this other stuff. So I got a stiff match right now from Cesaro and Sheamus right here. Sheamus on the outside. Yeah.
He knows it. He's pretty proud of himself.
Yeah. And Cesaro, I mean, was really, really over. I mean, the fans just loved him. He was kind of that, LA Knight, Daniel Bryan type that the fans just love no matter what you do with him and where you put him on the card. I think like a Zack Ryder when he was just over. I mean, people just absolutely loved him. I mean,
it's interesting because so it was in July 2014, WWE.com noted that one of Cesaro's signature moves, the Cesaro swing, was, quote, now a rarely used attraction after previously being a daily maneuver. Also that month, it was reported that WWE officials had told Cesaro to stop using the Cesaro swing because it was making him too popular and they did not want him being cheered as a heel. Meltzer said at the time, Cesaro was on the verge of big things with fans getting behind what they expected would be a babyface turn. Then it fell apart. They did a heel turn to put him with Paul Heyman and apparently figured that enabled them to not give him wins at all since Heyman was with him, but he'd stay over. This was before his big babyface turn fell completely apart and the turn was forgotten about. And so it really feels like they made all the wrong decisions with this guy. Like, plain and simple. We've seen what he's capable of after the fact in WWE. We've seen, like, he's still a top star in AEW right now. Like, it really feels like they just missed the mark with this guy. Them not giving him a push. I think at the same time, Sheamus has a point too. Like, he wants to have more matches with Drew. What was the match with him and Gunther and all that stuff was, one of the best matches on the card. Like, and so to get that was just fantastic. And so I think, like, he's one of those guys that, like, we've been listening to some podcasts, you and me, lately, and they who was it? Somebody Ric Flair made a comment about, like, Miz is a company guy, and, like, he will go out there and he will always perform and do everything. I feel like Sheamus is that guy too, but, like, they just don't want him out there for some reason. And so, but man, you put him, like, he's in the last year, he's wrestling some of the best wrestling he's had ever.
Oh yeah. It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, he's had a hell of a run.
Yeah, absolutely.
You brought up the Rockers, and you and I really haven't talked much about this season of Dark Side of the Ring that concluded, I guess maybe like a month or two ago now. But I'm caught up. I've seen them all. I think you have as well, or close to all of them.
I have seen them all at this point.
Okay. I don't know what your take is, and I know it's the whole premise of the show, and it's called Dark Side of the Ring. I'm just feeling like this season for me it just felt really dark, and I don't know what to necessarily say that should be done differently. I mean, it is kind of what it is. I think you could tell the Marty Jannetty story a lot differently. Right?
Yeah.
And this is a guy who, can he recover? Can he get back on his feet? Is he still doing drugs or not? Like, is he cleaned up his life or not? What's he doing day to day? And instead, it's like, oh, well, he posts this on Facebook. And I mean, I don't know, man. I would have told the story differently. I would have preferred to tell it differently. It's almost like I sit there and I'm like, this is just like sad. And, I almost feel like, Jeff, it's especially with the people that are alive still. And I guess you could say the same for the ones that aren't, but their, families are part of it. It's like, you're almost taking advantage of the situation. And, it doesn't all have to be so damn dark. These people had, they've done some good things in their life, but I don't know, just my thought.
Well, and he even said at the beginning, like he's trying to get surgery. Like we knew that. But he's got like infections and he's got to have one surgery before he get to the next one. And you and I know, like we've interviewed him and you've interviewed him. And so we know that. Yeah. And I think that he is, my takeaway from that is he is a incredibly gifted storyteller, whether you believe like, what he did or didn't do, or, I'm sure there's some truth sprinkled into the things he's saying, but then also embellishing it a little bit too. I thought there was a lot of stuff on Dark Side this season too. Like I liked the Bash episode because I still don't know what happened. Yeah. Like, I appreciate that where like leave it open-ended for me of like, let me think about it. Like, let me know. Like, I thought that, I wish they could have gotten like more recent Hogan interviews with that one because they had all of the players except Hogan. And, it's one of those, like, maybe it is. Just, I still like, you asked me today, I'd be like, yep, we're still getting worked to this day. Yeah. Who knows type thing. It's just, is Vince Russo the smartest guy in the room? Probably not. But like, there's just a lot of hate with that. And so, I thought a lot of the episodes were well done.
Sheamus explodes out of the corner. There's the high running knee. Speaking of Harley Race, and here's
guys are just beating the shit out of each other.
Yeah, they're having a real stiff match. Yeah, I feel like too. This will be the last season of it too. We won't get another season of Dark Side because remember this season it was rough for them to get to. So I don't think we're getting another.
Oh, okay. We'll see. I think you and I are in alignment. Like it's just like I think it's you kind of did your thing. You told your stories. I'd prefer something that wasn't so damn dark. I mean, I know it's sensational, and I think that fits the tone really well of Vice. So I think part of the show is that it fits that Vice model. If you've ever watched any of the other shows on Vice, they all feel very similar and salacious, and so really stiff match here.
Sheamus getting powered up, going for the brogue kick. Yep.
Cesaro, don't get up and look around. Yeah, you won't like the view. Right for the brogue kick, Cesaro. Cesaro, shoulders down. Sheamus at 2. Oh no, he's got him now. Oh, flat out power for the championship.
Yeah, so really good match. I mean, this kind of feels like you're, like you throw Gunther into Drew McIntyre.
Yeah.
Like these guys all have that. I mean, they just all work really, really stiff, and it's not necessarily the biggest power. Oh wow,
interesting move, yeah.
For the United States Championship in an ear fall.
Man, they got the crowd with them. That's for damn sure.
Cesaro's listed at 6'5". There's no way he's 6'8", 6'9", like on a bad day. Like, yeah, he is just not a chance.
This is
he was like flipping over and everything. Like, yeah, interesting.
Yeah, this is just a hell of a match.
I don't remember that move. I forget. I don't know if he has a name for it or what, but yeah.
How old do you think Sheamus is?
Sheamus, I'm gonna guess he's probably younger than I think. I'm gonna guess he's not even 40.
He is 45.
Damn. Okay. Yikes. All right. But still, like out there moving. Okay.
I did not know he was that old. I mean, I kind of remember him being a little bit older, but 45.
I know he's changed up his look a lot over the years too, like with the mohawk and all kinds of other stuff. Yeah, like just
Stephen Fairley.
Right there, you go.
Born January of 1978.
Yikes!
So he's been with WWE for 14 years now.
So
I feel like he's just always been in a pretty prominent spot. He's kind of always been in the spot he's been in, maybe a little higher, a little lower.
I'd say he was a mid-card guy, but he had the big belt for a while. Like, he had the heavyweight chain. So like he has done it all. And I was actually reading recently, he's something I'll have to try and find. He is like just shot. It's just oh, there you go.
That was awesome.
Here is your winner and still the United States champion, Sheamus.
Wow, what a match, man! It was a great match. That's what the kids call a banger.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, stiff. Absolutely. Good match though.
Sheamus, he was a former bodyguard for you too.
Really?
Uh-huh. He also was an IT technician.
Look at that. Okay.
Decided in
Reinventing himself.
Decided in 2002 to train for wrestling, following the advice of Bret Hart.
Interesting. Okay. Good advice.
Studied at the Monster Factory.
Yeah, of course. Seems like a lot of people coming out of there. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was it. I mean, he was on the Indies for 7 years before making it to WWE. Debuted on ECW. WWE ECW.
Yeah.
But that's what
Good match.
That's what that show should have been. That's what the ECW show should have been, is guys like him mixed in with, the ECW originals and making new stars. I mean, if it wasn't for ECW, you don't know what would happen with CM Punk. So they did a good job of making stars. So, all right, let's get into the aftermath.
Ho! It's time for the aftermath.
What'd you think?
Very good match. Like winning the U.S.
Really
belt on this, it was tight. Like they didn't need 25 minutes. Like that was under 15 minutes, but very, very good. And so I thought it benefited from it. And so I thought that was nice. But yeah, it's stiff as hell too. Like I'm just a big fan of that. Yep, absolutely.
One of the things, I don't know if you've noticed or not, but in the Triple H era of PLEs, they're giving every match time. They're saying, okay, we're going to do 8 matches or 6 matches, but each one is, 12, 15 minutes or longer. So they're giving them time to breathe, which is great. I also think that if you did a quick finish, it would come so far out of nowhere that it would actually be a big deal versus, hey, we're going to throw this Divas match on and give it 3 minutes and you just groan. So I think that's a big compliment that I'd give the current era. So
yeah, absolutely. So on this one too, so interesting. So I said it, he's done a lot over the years. Can you name trivia for you? We haven't had trivia in a while. So I guess,
no.
What is the one belt that Sheamus has not won? There's only one. I guess you could call it the brother or sister belt to the U.S. title.
I was going to say the IC title.
That is the only belt.
I feel like he's had that
won.
U.S. title a number of times, but he's just never had the IC title.
He has had the WWE Championship, the World Heavyweight Championship, the U.S. Championship, and the Tag Championships. And so he is the Intercontinental belt short of being a Grand Slam champion. So wow. Which is crazy. Yeah. So he called it, and that was what it was. He wants to be the first ever ultimate Grand Slam champion, but nobody knows what the hell that means. So they figure he just meant Grand Slam champion. So yeah, but that's where he's at. So Sheamus on this one, yeah. Again, brought him up briefly here. Beat the Miz. It was actually Hell in a Cell in October after this one. Ended up losing to Rusev in November. It was actually a match that was just on the network. Losing that one. And so that was actually the end of his title reign at 182 days. He was actually written off television, and so that he could get surgery at that point too. He's actually attacked by Rusev and Mark Henry, Mark Henry on TV right now, actually, if you're still watching. So Cesaro on the flip side of this one, he actually did go after the Intercontinental Championship on this one after, of course, he had all those feuds with the other ones, or for the other ones. It was actually held by Dolph Ziggler at the time. So Cesaro was the number one contender after winning a battle royal. So it's really these guys had a bunch of different matches. And again, with the Heyman stuff or whatever it might have been, like cooling him off, or he was done with Heyman by the time this started rolling around. But they had it was 5 different title matches, and he lost them every single time. So it was Raw, SmackDown, Hell in a Cell. It was a couple 3-way matches and a 2 out of 3 falls match, and he lost them all, which is just like, man, like it's like Barry Horowitz level here. Like, how can you make this guy keep losing when he's over the way he is? Like, it just makes zero sense to me. So little crazy. And at the same time, the PWI of this year, Cesaro was 13 and Sheamus was 21. So how can it be that hot losing but he's losing, but he's still that high, which is crazy when you think about it. And so the torch on this one, Cesaro gave him some more, but the ref scolded him for beating him in the corner, not breaking a 5. Sheamus then took advantage of the opening and nailed him with a bro kick out of the corner for the win. The announcers really put over the match. Sheamus in 13 to retain, 3.25 stars. This was the second best match on this card, according to the Observer newsletter, with the Orton Jericho match being the best one. And really just kind of going through the motions here. What is it? Cesaro was slapping him around, and then they traded punches and elbows. You could see in the finish the G1 style, since Cesaro was one of the WWE guys who watched the entire tournament. He was landing hard kicks and punches, then landed a running kick to the face. Sheamus then hit the bro kick out of nowhere and got the pin. The story is Sheamus would continually set it up and fail, but with no setup, he caught Cesaro off guard with it. 4 stars. So the Observer 4, the Torch 3.25. Where are you going to put this one?
Yeah, I'm more in that 4-star range. I'm going to give this a 7.5. Yeah, I actually thought about giving it an 8. I just, I don't know if the storyline and the stage necessarily would put it in that category, but totally 7.5. I thought this was really, really good. I like that. I like these matches where they're like 12, maybe 15 minutes long, and they just don't really stop. It's just kind of continuous action, and you don't need to do anything over the top, but just good, solid wrestling that doesn't stop. So that's where I'm at. What about you?
Yeah, I'm at a 7.5 too. I think that it was definitely exceeded my expectations. This is when you just want like a tight, good match. Like this is the one. And so, everything was really in the ring except for a tiny bit there at the start. And the guys just beat the hell out of each other. Plain and simple. So I think that really makes it worth it. It was just really good stuff. And yeah, this is one that especially on a interesting card. And I did look it up for you. So, Roman was medically not cleared on this one. And so that's why the card got a little weird in the middle there. But yeah, I mean, if this is what you're getting outside of that, like not bad.
Agreed. This was a fun one, man. Good work finding this. Really good match, and makes me. I think I appreciate Sheamus more than I did at other points of his career.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we're in like a weird. It's a weird time with wrestling right now. Like we're in between shows. Like Fastlane's a couple weeks away still. Like. We've got an NXT show, but at the same time, it's just kind of a down. But this was a good match. Definitely one to go back and check out.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Good work, and we got a fun one next week. We have a 6-pack challenge, man. This is the Unforgiven 99 one where they just threw 6 guys in there, and Steve Austin was out with an injury, so they were just trying to figure out what the hell to do in the main event picture. So, yeah. This was fun. Looking forward to next week.
Very good stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Appreciate everyone joining us. We'll see you next week on an all-new episode of The Panel.